Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 2 of the nunchuck videos. In the last video I covered the downward figure eights, both the wrist version and the full body version. And in this video I'm going to be covering the upward versions of those two moves. It's basically the exact same concept, it's just this time you're going upwards with it instead of downwards. And you also notice I have a different pair this time. This is actually a foam set that I went out and purchased. These were probably, I think these were $6 at a local flea market, so you can get these for pretty cheap. And the whole thing is made of foam, so even if you hit yourself pretty hard, you're not going to hurt yourself. So that's why I recommend using these to start with. But anyways, if you remember from the last video when I covered the downward figure eights, well, let me back up a bit. I started with just this move here, which is the equivalent of the basic flourish and the saber videos. And this is really just the move to get you started. So you're just doing this to the outside of your arm. And then to do the figure eight, as it comes to that downward portion, you're turning your hand over so that the chuck is now spinning on the inside of your arm instead of the outside. So outside, turn your hand over, inside. And once you have both those pieces, then you just alternate those two, and that gives you the figure eight. Okay, now that's the version using mainly my wrist to control that movement. Then I went into the full body version where you use more of the forearm to control the movement. So basically, with the first version, you're stopping in the center of your body, right there, in that plane there. So it's going halfway. Whereas in the full version, you're going to this side of your body, and then to this side of your body. Okay. So halfway, full version. That's the exact same concept as the upward figure eight, except you're just going upwards with it this time. Alright? So, very easy to do. Instead of just starting with the downward basic, you're starting with the upward basic. And again, this time, as you're coming up with that swing, that's when you're going to turn your wrist over so the other handle comes to the inside. So up, and then as it comes towards 12 o'clock, you're flipping your wrist over so it spins on the inside. Like that. So just work on, first of all, doing each piece of these, and then once you have both of those, then you just alternate. And again, I'm stopping halfway in front of me, right there. Okay. Again, using mainly my wrist to control the motion. And that gives you that figure eight. Now, full body figure eight is exactly the same. Again, you start on one side of your body. And again, as you reach that 12 o'clock portion, you're just bringing it to this side of your body, using mainly the forearm. Okay, and just spend some time on each side of the body before starting to transition, just so you get the movement down. If you're having trouble with it, it may help to exaggerate the motion a little bit. So start using the entire arm. And then try to switch that way. And then once you can do it with the full arm, then just tighten it up using mainly the forearm. and there's your full body upward figure eight. Alright, so again, with the wrist version, all you're doing is turning the hand over with the handle, and you're bringing the other handle pretty much straight in front of you, and then back to the outside. So this is the wrist version, and that's the full body version. Alright, so now you should have, of course, the basic, both the down and the upward. You should be able to do the downward figure eight wrist version and full body version, as well as the upward wrist and full body figure eight. Now, a good way to practice those both in sequence, I guess you could say, is by doing that little reversing action. And that's actually something else I wanted to cover. The terminology I'm going to switch up a little bit in these videos. Originally I said every time I reverse the momentum of the chucks, I'm going to call it a reverse. I'm actually going to call it a bounce, because that's kind of the more popular name it goes by. It's the more standard version of what it's called. So every time I bounce the chucks off a part of my body, I'm just going to refer to that as a bounce, because I'm going to save the word reverse for when I actually get into reverse grip, which will come a little bit later. So anyway, you can use that little arm bounce I showed you in lesson 1 to actually switch between the downward figure eights, whichever version, and the upward, and then back. So because you're switching the momentum of the chucks, that's also reversing the direction of the figure eight, if that makes sense. So here I'm in the downward wrist version, and I can do that little bounce to get up into the upward wrist version. Same thing with the full body. So downward, upward. So you can practice each of these at the same time just by doing that little bouncing action. Okay. Alright, so that's the downward and upward figure eights. In the next lesson I'm going to be covering something called fading, so I will see you in that video. Bye.